What is the size of this project we got?
The biggest enemy to any construction is water.
This is a tubular building. Check out the frame. So this is the frame we were talking about. Now, I think we failed that we didn't offer like a little pad maybe to build, but it's something that you can ask.
They said, let there be light. This is 1-inch closed cell spray foam.
Should we do electrical before or after? You want to talk about that?
Yeah.
Welcome back, Pack. This is Adbeel from WolfSteel Buildings, and we got a special guest today, Ernesto.
Glad to be back. Glad to be back to the channel. What's up, guys?
And we got a really cool project that we want to show you here in Grandview, Texas. So we're about, what, like 30-minute drive this morning?
Yeah, not too bad, not too far. Kind of here, local in the DFW area.
Awesome, and we got a special project we're about to walk through. Now, before we get that one going, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. If you have any comments, leave them there. Ernesto will probably also help you out with some of those technical questions as well. So
absolutely.
Let's get this one going. Let's go. Ernesto, talk to me. What is the size of this project we got?
So Adbeel, right here we have a 40x60 tubular metal building. Now, one thing to consider on here is that we did take care of this client with the site preparation and concrete work as well.
Yeah, so we did this driveway, right? So if you see here, we connected because this is the existing driveway, and from here we made this connection. So we did a nice cut and planned this all out.
So all this merged on here, Adbeel, but I know one thing is that customers do always ask us, they say, what if I want additional work?
Yeah.
I know one thing to always consider is that we always do a site visit, because if you want that additional work, we actually calculate that on site, because this isn't like the building. The building has footings, cross internal beams. This is simple flat work. Mm-hmm. So on here, what they do is they check your grade, and then you can't compare this with the actual footing, because on here, they pretty much check the slope of your area, and then they calculate that, give us the price so we can give it to you.
Yeah, and right here, it's got the little slope, but then it's got it redirected the water out that way so it doesn't go back to the home, right?
That's crucial, Adbeel, because at the end of the day, when it comes down to any type of construction, the biggest enemy to any construction is water at the end of the day. So, wood rots, steel rusts. So what we try to solve for here is which way is the water going to go. So on the site visit, it's crucial to make sure we get the elevations to redirect water away from going into underneath the overhead door. Anywhere in the building, that's the biggest problem that we solve for on our site visits.
And even for our buildings too, right? But yeah, the main thing for site visits is redirection of water, the elevations. We'll talk about the backside, how much dirt we brought in here. We brought in a lot of yards, and talking about that. This is a tubular building. This is what we consider a wide span building.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this took about a week. So our client, this building was purchased back in December. We're in April. It's actually the solar eclipse, but I don't think we'll get to see it today.
We'll get a cloudy eclipse.
We'll get a cloudy eclipse. So it's already been 4 months, so it is a process. It is time, especially since we do the full project. We just finished the spray foam last week, and we're about to show you guys that as well. So this is a time frame. This took about a week to install.
Yeah. So there's a big difference. What we do have is standard size buildings and wide span size buildings when it comes down to tubular. So one thing to take into consideration is the integrity of the structure. You'll see inside kind of the design of the internals changes whenever you go over 30 foot wide, and you'll take a look at that inside.
Yeah, and the price does make a significant difference, especially because for this one, we needed a SkyTrack to be able to lift all the trusses. They get pretty heavy. Mm-hmm. And then what colors do we got here?
So on here for the walls, we got Quaker gray, and then the roof and trim is going to be black. Now what you will see is that this customer did upgrade to gutters and downspouts. We always get the common question of what is the biggest difference between red iron and tubular. Red iron comes standard with our gutters, but tubular, you always have the option to upgrade them, and it looks absolutely stunning. I mean, it looks beautiful. You do have the option though of having different colors for the actual gutter and the downspout. This particular customer went with black for both, and it looks beautiful.
And I've always said, like, if you want your tubular building to stand out on the gutters, like, it gives it a whole different look. Our client, as soon as he saw the gutters, like, oh, I love my building.
Yeah.
So it really does make a difference. One thing to keep in mind is that when we quote you for gutters, we don't just quote you for just the gutters. We quote for additional framework that we do on the building to prepare for the gutters. So for a tubular building, you typically only, for the fascia on the eaves, you don't really have a solid member there. It's just basically a trim that we call a vertical trim, just slapped on it. So a lot of gutter companies have a hard time or have to do additional work to be able to, you know, strap on and tie in the gutter system. For us, it's like we already create a solid brace that runs all the way along the fascia, and that is where our gutter team just comes in, boom, and they're out. And it's a lot more solid and sturdier. So keep that in mind when you do get gutters. We do that prep work. We also do the custom sheet metal size on the roof as well.
Yeah, so typically whenever you don't have gutters, we actually overlap the panel outside of the trim work a little bit more. That way we try to have the water go as far out from the building as possible. But when we know that you're gonna have gutters, whenever you see the overview, because I know marketing is always killer at those shots, but the panel is actually just about an inch, give or take. That way the water can fall directly onto the gutter. That's important because at that point, it's not half in, half out. So those are things that we take into consideration right when we know that you're gonna be getting gutters.
Custom ordered panel, so that's awesome. You can see that our client's running his HVAC. Now, I think we failed that we didn't offer like a little pad maybe to build, but it's something that you can ask. Sometimes sit your HVAC on a like a nice concrete pad. Yeah. Steel door, nice and solid insulated steel door. And what do we got here, Ernesto? This is
So this is a 16 wide, 10 tall, insulated overhead door. Now this does have the steel backing, so it's fully insulated when it comes down to it. What you'll see is that this is a carriage style. So we have a bunch of different style overhead doors. This customer decided to go with the carriage style. Super, super nice. One thing to take into consideration when it comes down to overhead doors is the weather stripping. So on here, this has a lot of purpose because when it comes down to it, it seals the door real nice when it comes down to it sitting flush and pressed against the actual trim work.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the biggest difference with roll-up doors is that roll-up doors don't come with weather stripping. No. There is third-party products that we're actually working on to be able to offer. So we're working on it, but you do have a lot of, you know, air penetration inside the building. Oh yeah. So it's just a difference, but it just depends on the use. And you'll see in the inside, he's got it all insulated, all spray foam. So it's the purpose of having an insulated door and a nice sealed door as well.
Yeah, this particular customer decided to insulate his building, and with that, we always highly recommend to consider overhead doors because how I always tell all my customers is if you have a roll-up door, it's almost like driving around in your car with the windows down, but your AC is full blast. You get a lot of wind penetration through those roll-ups, and overhead doors definitely help with insulating the buildings.
Let's walk over here. So we spray foam, and I can see here a little bit of oozing, huh?
Yeah.
So I think, you know, so that's the reason why the building should be prepped well before. Fortunately, that's very easy to take off. That's easy to clean off. I've seen some nightmares.
I know.
We used to go. We had some as well. So we're not perfect, but we learned from that lesson. And what do we do?
So when it comes down to that, I know that was after the fact, right? Like Adbeel said, easily being able to take off. But the learning lessons that we've gone through is that when you do spray foam, the spray foam tends to swell a little bit, right? And metal panels, they overlap corners edges and the ridge cap, which is the peak of the building. So what we do to help minimize that problem is we add something called foam gap enclosures. That pretty much takes the dimension of the panel and it serves almost like a gasket. That way when they do spray, it doesn't ooze like you see there, but on the corners, edges, and ridge cap of the building. So that really helps with that.
And you can see, like if you look right there, you got all the foam gap enclosures right under. It's kind of hard to see, but it's got it all along the eave, and that's the purpose. Another thing to keep in mind that we do that is not standard in tubular buildings is we do the base trim. So the base trim that allows the panel to sit on it, and it really does help that way in case you have some dips in your concrete, because you know it's hard to in construction to have everything perfect. So there's always ways to mitigate that. So in this case, the panel sits on it and protects from critters to coming in. Now, if you do the foam gap enclosures, it still helps, but you know, with the base trim, I love that extra detail that we add on all our tubulars.
I know that they've even considered those as almost like rack guards, because if you'll see, this is vertical siding. So the actual ridges on here, they meet the ground. That's actually exposed to, like you mentioned, critters. That's also, for example, any kind of like rats or anything can crawl up there. But this, if you really look at it, it's really almost
right to the point.
Yeah. So like I said, if a rat can fit through there, that'd be a little bit crazy.
Little mice. Check this out. So here's where the gutters, you can easily get this like at a Home Depot because now all the water is being drained on these downspouts. And so, you know, this is important because then all this water can start, you know, like carving inside your ground, which is one of the reasons that I really love about gutters is that, you know, I've seen it. If you don't have gutters, water just splashes all along here and it starts creating like a trench all the way along the side of the building, which one, it exposes your foundation, which makes it more vulnerable. Two, wait, I don't even know if I have two, but that's
well, it might not be as pleasant to walk through it if you have, you know, for example, the trenches and stuff like that. So this helps really alleviate that from, like I said, it falling straight down right here, and now you have a big old trench where it's starting to wash out.
What I was also going to mention is that it gets your panels barely dirty, you know, because it starts splashing, and so it just makes your panels like a lot more like this all the way up here. So that's the purpose for gutters, really to protect your foundation and as well as to protect your panels. So it's definitely worth the investment.
So on here, Adbeel, we actually did an approach to the garage door. So when it comes down to it, whenever you have openings like this, it is always advised to have an approach. That way you're not necessarily pulling up to the garage door just on dirt. But then also, same reason as the front, is also for water to be directed away from the door. So what you'll see is that actually it's hard to see with the naked eye, but when it comes down to it, this actually has a grade not only to come out this way, but also to kind of come out towards away from the building where it's not always piled up here in front of you. So that's always something to consider when getting an approach, is that we do that for you on the site visit as well.
And also, like, we highly recommend to have an approach if you have multiple door entrances. So, because typically your ground is never going to be level, like it's just not level, just because of rain in general will start creating different grade elevations. So over there, you know, we focus on the main entrance. From here, if we come this way, right here we brought a ton of select fill dirt, which is like clay-ish material, to raise the elevation. If you look over here, this is the original elevation over here. So we are about 2-3 feet above the original grade here. If we didn't have this approach, it would be hard to access your building. So if you have multiple door entrances, keep in mind approaches are, if not required, because then you can't even drive onto it. So that's really important. Another thing is when you are getting the site prep numbers, you know, there is a calculation of the amount of dirt that has to be brought in. It's very important to have at least 3 foot of additional dirt before it starts sloping away. And that's important to maintain the stability of your foundation, because if You know, we only bring in dirt just right up to you know, and it starts grading down. Over time, it's not a solid foundation. You know, it can start moving. So this allows it to stay solid and strong foundation for years.
Yeah.
Another thing to keep in mind is that when we do construction, we do select fill. Select fill doesn't really have a vegetation growing easily. So it's important to do your own, because we don't offer it right now, but bring in maybe like some topsoil, some mulch, and start, you know, to be able to grow some grass around here, right?
Yeah, that helps a lot whenever it starts to wash out. That alleviates it from actually washing out. Whenever you have that grass, it really helps minimize that from happening, because it's a natural like absorbent when it comes down to it. It helps your grass grow a lot better. So if anything, you're doing yourself a huge favor by adding what Adbeel just mentioned.
Oh, that's so true. So grass allows the you know, the ground to stay and minimize erosion. So ready to walk in?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Now, like Adbeel mentioned, this is a steel door. So you do have two different style doors when it comes down to it. For tubular, this is a steel frame. Now it is insulated on the inside. What you will see is that this is a pre-hung door. So it's actually flush to the ground. Typically, whenever you see RV style vinyl doors, it still has the base rail, so it's a little bit of a tripping hazard. But these upgraded doors are absolutely beautiful when it comes down to it being flush to the door, and it's also insulated.
I want to talk about the price of it, you know, might as well. So those mobile home doors, vinyl doors, typically will cost around like $300, somewhere around there. This door will cost a lot more, like almost 4 times more, but I think it's worth it. And again, it's not a tripping hazard as well. Those doors are...
They're just vinyl. They're vinyl doors that just get put inside of an actual frame. The one thing though to consider whenever we do price these doors, it's not just the door, it's actually an installed door. So what you'll see is that the labor, the actual installation, the trim work, and the door itself is the price of the door, which I believe it's about $1,200, but that's an installed door, not the door itself.
Yep. I wanted to mention, now that you're mentioning about that, you know, so we framed this out really nice because this is a bigger frame than the mobile home door. The mobile home door actually has its frames around our tubes, and these doors are pre-hung, so we have to create the frame around the frame of the door. So it's just a lot solid, sturdier door. And, you know, a lot of our clients have said, you know what, it's a lot more. Well, we wanted to talk about it because, you know, I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it, long-term investment, especially for such a large project like this.
Absolutely.
If it's just a nice, small little shed, I think the mobile home door is a nice door.
Absolutely. Now, I know when it comes down to the overhead doors, we did mention that considering this customer spray foamed his building with insulation, he got the steel backed insulated overhead door. And the reason is because of the insulation on here. And then you can definitely check it out. For example, this customer did closed cell. You can definitely see on here, they said, "Let there be light." So now you can see how this customer spray foamed his entire building. Came out absolutely stunning.
It was light, it wasn't heavy.
No, super, super light. So when it comes down to these doors, I know it has a spring that definitely helps. I mean, as you can see, it's a simple pull. There's options. There's options on either getting the motor or not necessarily having it.
Yeah, so a lot of our clients have asked, you know, like, can I still open these heavy doors? Because they're heavy, you know, just by myself. Yeah, you can definitely do it. Now, obviously, there comes the convenience of having an opener. We do the openers as well, and comes with the remote control. So right now, the electrical hasn't been fully, it's not running yet, so it's not connected. But you can get it without openers in, and then you can just pull it down and up. So what do we got here, Ernesto? This is
1-inch closed cell spray foam. So there are differences between open cell and closed cell, not only on the product itself, but on the price. So that is a little bit different. But when it comes down to closed cell, it hardens a lot better than open cell. Open cell, it's a little bit more spongy when it comes down to it. But closed cell is a really good barrier when it comes down to actually applying it on the metal building. So it really helps minimize the building from sweating, you know, climate control. a little bit when it comes down to it. Now I know one thing that you will see is that with closed cell, not only are they spraying it just in between, but also we take care of you on spraying it on the actual truss itself. Now Adbeel, can I ask you, what's the reason we actually spray on the truss itself versus just on the panel and exposing, for example, here and here?
So, you know, my background is I've been doing a lot of metal buildings in like the northern states. So I know you're in YouTube, you watch YouTube. The northern states, there's a lot of fluctuation in temperatures from the morning to the afternoon. Here in Texas, it happens as well. So we've had it encountered where we spray, but we don't spray the framing members fully, and therefore then you get condensation because there's not a thermal break between the outside temperature and the inside. So if you're running like, you know, HVAC inside or like heating and cooling inside and then the temperature outside, it's kind of like when you got a cold Coke inside your office or at home, it starts sweating. That's exactly what we've seen. So that's why we spray the full members to minimize that and really not have that. Ernesto, I know there's some questions on should we do electrical before or after? Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so it's a commonly asked questions because on here, customers are running electrical constantly throughout their building, whether they want to do an office space or something like this customer's doing here. So it is a common question when it comes down to, should I spray before or after running, for example, my conduit or whatever the case might be? There really is no wrong answer when it comes down to it. It is preference. Definitely do your research on what you feel like would better suit you, because what I do highly encourage is to take into consideration that whenever, for example, you are running electrical and you don't necessarily have this conduit, but you have bare wires, if you do it first and then spray foam, if you have to, for some reason, fix electrical, you're gonna have to cut in for what you paid for. You pretty much paid to have insulation, now you have to cut into it to fix the actual wires themselves. And that's, well, like I said, one of the cons of spraying after. Now, one of the pros of actually spraying after is that you are protecting it, for example, from any outside exposure, right? You're kind of packing it in. So that is one pro. So I'd say it is just preference. It is preference. Just do your research on what you feel would better suit you. But like I said, there's no wrong way of doing it. That's for sure.
It's very common though. It's more common is after, right? After. Yeah. So like right now. So this is how it would look. There's a lot of like either you like the spray foam or you hate it. I love the effectiveness, the results it gives you. And I think the only thing that's scary about spray foam is whenever it doesn't get sprayed on right. There's a lot of, you know, the machine, whenever it's prepping to be able to spray on, has to be on point. And also it's craftsmanship. The guy's hand to be able to do it nice and smooth like this, that's what I do like about our spray foam is, you know, we've been doing it for quite a bit now, that we've pre-selected our technicians to do it and do such a good job like they did here. So it looks very smooth. It doesn't look warpy, you know. Check out the frame. So this is the frame we were talking about.
So this is considered a ladder style truss. Like I said, the biggest difference is standard size building and wide spans. That's crucial because what you'll see is, for example, the members here, it's not just one single tube like you typically see with a standard 30-foot wide building and 12-foot tall buildings. So for example here, the moment it surpasses 30 wide, that's 31 and up, this has to change to something a little bit more of this style. And that's for integrity reasons. You don't, like I said, we're solving problems before they happen, so we take that into consideration the moment you surpass standard sizes, and that does affect your price. But like I said, here, not only do you have this single tube, you have a second one here and then a pretty much cross member in between. I know one thing, Adbeel, I do commonly get asked a lot, is this gap right here. So this is exposed. Now you can easily find these like at Home Depot. They're just caps that you can put in here, or we can also offer them for you at an additional cost. But yeah, easy to install. You just order them, put them on there, give them a little kick, and you're good to go.
You're good to go. I love these type of trusses. This is already commercial grade trussing work.
Oh yeah.
On this building.
Approximately, Adbeel, what is the spacings between the actual columns themselves? Like for example, from here
Typically
to here?
around 10 feet. This looks a little bit shorter.
8 to 10, right?
8 to 10, yeah.
Usually.
Typically range is 8 to 10. Our red iron is 20 foot to 25. And then the standard 30 foot and under is 5 foot. And that's here in Texas. That's for Texas. Except in the Corpus Christi, well, we don't serve much of Corpus Christi,
More like
but Houston.
Yeah, coast, areas around the coast, we always take those precautions. Like I said, we're definitely solving for worst case scenario, not best. We want to make sure this building is built to last. So when it comes down to areas in the coast, we do reinforce the structures. So the leg spacings are a little bit closer. The reinforcement is there for a higher wind capacity because we know you guys deal, you know, down south with a little bit more wind than us. So we definitely take care of you there. We advance in what we know the winds could be out there.
And I think that's extremely important to mention because I know whenever you get a quote from us, you'll see a line item that says severe wind package. And that's the actual reinforcements. That comes all depending on your local code specifically, extra trusses, diagonal braces on your corners. So it's a lot more reinforced for your wind. If you're getting a quote in that area and it's only 5 foot centers and no diagonal bracing, be concerned because, you know, Galveston area, Houston, closer to the coast, it is high winds. It is high winds and your building should be, you know, reinforced. We have an office here. So a lot of our clients ask, okay, can I, you know, how do I build an office inside our metal building? Here, what we recommend is not to affect the integrity of the structure because the structure is built for itself. It's not built to sustain anything else.
Right.
So in this case, that's what our client did, is basically built with inside, creating an envelope inside of his building. So yeah, he's building his office, huh?
And it came out pretty good. So far, so good. I know coming in here is that whenever it does come down to the insulation, like I mentioned before, he did 1 inch close cell on the full building. Every square inch of the actual walls, roof is 1 inch close cell. Now, considering that he is going to be doing an office space, you don't necessarily have to do 1 inch on the entire part of what he's doing. That 1 inch helps whenever you do the barrier between what you are going to add on insulation and the actual panel themselves. So he went ahead and did the 1 inch just to create the barrier on the full building, but then went ahead and did open cell after that. So instead of just doing open cell directly onto the panel, he has that layer of 1 inch close cell to become that barrier, and you can always add open cell after that. I know that he has different thickness of open cell in different areas specific to the use of the actual section right here. So I know he has 3.5 inches on parts of the office, and then he has 5 inches on other parts, mainly the roof.
Yeah, and that's very common, especially in barn dominiums. This is very, very, very typical. You know, closed cell to create that barrier and attach to the metal, and then the open cell. And we can definitely do both. You actually get a more cost-effective with the open cell.
Oh yeah.
You know, so this is very, very similar to how barn dominiums are being built nowadays.
Oh yeah.
Look at how he's wrapping around, because I'm sure he's gonna run some sort of drywall here, and he's preparing to wrap it around, so super nice. Well guys, I hope this video was informative. Ernesto?
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure to be on the channel.
So
Helping you guys out.
So if you're looking for a metal building, you know, you can call and ask for the Apex.
The Apex crew, that's the top of the food chain. So if you guys ever need help, if you guys ever have a lot of questions, just know I'm always here to help. I'm always available. So if you guys ever have any questions, you can ask for Ernesto or the Apex group, and we're definitely here to help you guys.
Awesome. Stay tuned, guys. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, and we'll see you guys in the next one.